Okay. Hi, my name is Trinity. I um, was part of DeCal staff. I was more involved last semester, but this semester, here I am. I'm going to teach you the security fundamentals. Um, okay. So we'll just go over a quick introduction, why we care. I mean, I hope you already know why we should care. But here are some case examples. So security is important because otherwise basic things would not function. I mean, some basic things already don't function, but they would function even worse. One case in point is our voting security. Russian hackers, I don't know, you might have like heard about this, but it definitely happens. Voting fraud, hospitals, like especially during COVID, that was like a very big point of concern. And they did suffer a lot of ransomware attacks. Um, Financial security, your banks, obviously you don't want them looking at that. And your data, if you apply to UC, or if you're part of that UC application system, your personal information is probably all still in the UC data breach. Um, but one thing that's good is that you have job security, because I think right now, becoming a security engineer is probably one of the more stable jobs in comparison to like traditional SWE. So if you're interested in that career-wise, it's a very nice thing to consider. And I just pulled up a screenshot of some like recent data breaches, and like there's a lot. There's a lot happening every day around you, and we don't really talk about it like we do a big disaster because it happens so often, and it's almost just like a daily fact of life that your data is being circulated everywhere. For the most part, it's like fine. You just might notice unusual activity from time to time, but there's ways you can, mitigate that. But yeah, be careful out there. Okay, so as a security engineer, what are we trying to do and design for? Some basic principles as you're thinking about security is the fact that security is economics, first and foremost. Like, if you have someone who's trying to target your system, whether you work at some big company or financial institution or whatever, you want to think about who might your threats be. Like, um, so that's a know your threat model. It might be like some really bored kid, like some 15-year-old who just happens to be screwing around. It could be like some like giant ring, like underground ring of people who are trying to like sell your information. Like it could be a lot of people, but they have limited resources, and you want to think like how much they can do given the resources. Like for example, like a DDoS attack, denial of service. If you just like spam someone's server enough, then it's like your servers get overwhelmed. I mean, on one hand, you can think of it like, can like a 15-year-old really DDoS attack you? Probably not. But if there was a big ring of people who are incentivized, like the cost of them having all those servers and attacking you was worth it if they were able to hack you and, take your service down, then they might actually do that. So you want to consider that. Um, some other principles, least privilege. Obviously, you don't want your like in your company, you don't want like your janitor to be able to access, your deep and darkest secrets in your company, because then someone could just become a janitor and know all your secrets. Um, Defense and depth. You want to have multiple layers defense because your security is only as strong as your weakest link, as we'll see. Complete mediation, a similar idea, and accounting for human factors. I think most hacks that work tend to be social engineering attacks. So this is typically like what those 15-year-olds go for, where they just like spam you so much. It's like 3 a.m. and your Duolingo's like getting spammed, and like you barely check what it is, and you just like click OK, and then they have access to your account. Yep. And oh, this is one example of your it's only as strong as your weakest link. There was some casino that had like internet connected fish tanks, and someone was able to hack into their system through their fish tank. So be careful. And maybe IoT is good, but you should also be aware of the risks. Okay, So as a security engineer, we want to design for these four things. Number one, confidentiality, kind of like the least privilege principle. We want to make sure like only those people that we want to have access. Integrity, we want to make sure that whatever data that we have, that we know it's real, it hasn't been tampered with. Authentication, we want to make sure that like the person, or rather like we're getting data, but we want to make sure it's like the right person and we trust them. And availability, which is you don't want your servers to go down. So starting with confidentiality, if you store your data on your machines in plain text, then anybody who happens to see your files can immediately know what they are. Like they don't need any password or anything. So that's bad. If you encrypt it, then we call it ciphertext. So it just looks like, you've probably seen in your hacker, like whatever, when you just generate a random sequence of numbers, it looks like garbage unless you can decrypt it. And then the key is what you use to take plain text into ciphertext. And keys can be symmetric or asymmetric. Symmetric meaning that I use the same key, so it's like a door. I use the same key to like lock and unlock, compared to asymmetric, in which you use one key to encrypt and a different key to decrypt, as we'll see. Yeah, so what I just said, but in picture form. So random text, this would be symmetric key, where you use the same key to encrypt and decrypt. And okay, the same picture. And then for asymmetric, this is what we call public and private key pairs. Have you guys ever like had to like generate a key pair for your SSH into like a machine, either for your class or something? So you're generating key pairs, like the pairs go together. So the public key is the key that you use to encrypt. And so anybody can have access to your public key. In fact, if you go onto like your GitHub account, if you added your SSH key into your GitHub account, you can go to like github.com/your username .keys, and then your keys are, anyone can see them. And that's fine, because your private key is the one that's actually on your machine, stored safe away in like your home directory /.ssh. This should be kept secret. And that's the one that's actually used to decrypt. So the idea is like if anyone's sending a message to you, they should be able to encrypt it so that when they send it, there's nobody else in the world other than you who has the decryption key can see that message. Yep, so two different keys in this case. So I'm someone, I want to send you a secret message. I don't want anyone else to know. And then I use your public key, and then only you can know what the message is. Okay, any questions on that? All right. Oh, sure.
So anyone who wants to send the message to me with encryption, so they need to access my own public key to send this message. So if I have the public key and also the encrypted message, can I like do the reverse engineering to?
No. Yeah, so that's the thing. Oh, that's what cryptography is. So part of that is that you want to make it so that like you can have the key, but you can't reverse engineer it. It comes from a principle in just like math and like modulo arithmetic. You can, if you take like 161, you'll learn about it. It's like Diffie-Hellman, where it's like it's very easy. Like you can multiply two really large numbers together just fine. But if you want to figure out like a prime factorization of like some really, really large numbers, that will take you billions of years. So that's also, now that you bring it up, that's also a really good, that's the reason why that like people are afraid that quantum computers might break cryptography. Because if you can factor, I know it's just like sounds like a basic math problem. If you can factor a really large number into its primes easily, then literally all hell will break loose. Like anyone can obtain this private key. Yeah.
It requires a lot of computer resources.
Yeah. So like again, right now, if you were to do it, it would take like billions of years. Like no one has the time, right? No one's gonna do it. Okay. So moving on to integrity. Integrity is saying that your data has not been tampered with. So you can think that you would want integrity, like let's say you're downloading an app from like the App Store. You want to make sure that you're not like downloading some like really sus like clone of the app that someone made to like rip money off of you, right? So integrity allows you to make sure like this thing that you have is like the correct version, hasn't been messed, or some most importantly, you don't want any like crypto miner, Bitcoin miner injected into it. So the way that we do that, like computationally, is through a hash. You might remember hashing, if you took something like 61B, where a hash can take some sequence, some characters, and then always generate a hash, which you can always go one way, but not the other way. So let's say I have like, my I made like a little video game, right? I released on the App Store, right? And then I generate a hash. It's like a fingerprint, where like that fingerprint is unique to like exactly my code. If I change one bit inside of my code, like I change one line, I change one print statement or whatever, and I generate a new hash, it'll look completely different. Yeah. So another word for them is MAC. So MAC is message authentication code, but like the math that's underneath that is just a hash function. And you might also recognize like checksums. So checksums is just like a faster way of making sure that you have the correct thing. Instead of, because the hash can be like really, really long. So it's just a quick way of checking that, okay, I have the right thing. If you ever like apt-get, apt-install something, you might see like, oh, checksum verified or something like that. Yeah, and like I said, mathematically, it's very hard to go the other way. So another place where we use this is obviously storing passwords. So remember earlier I said you don't want to store anything in plain text. That means if you have a data breach, like, uh-oh, now everyone just sees everyone's passwords. That's terrible. If let's say I'm a company and I got a data breach, but I was smart and I stored all of my passwords as hashes. Now, if all the passwords are stored as hashes, if somebody wants to like obtain the password, they would have to randomly guess like a bunch of different passwords until they find a hash that matches. So like let's say someone's actual password is like I I love waddles. Okay, so someone's actual password is I love waddles 123. And then as a hacker, I just see like a jumble of text, or I just see the hash. So if I want to guess this person's password, I would have to try like every single possible password. And let's say I try like I love waddles 1, and then I try I love waddles 1, 2, and then I try I love waddles 1, 2, 3, and then I see that the hash that I got matches the hash that they have stored. So you see how I can still obtain the passwords if like the data breach happens, but it requires a lot of extra work for the hacker in order to like reverse engineer the passwords, right? And then again, going back to the principle that security is economics, like does somebody have the time and effort to be able to like compute all of the passwords from their hashes? Yeah, so that's why that's important to consider, and also why like database, like buying like commonly used passwords is like a really good, because if you have a list of commonly used passwords, then instead of like trying every single possible combination of characters, you can just like try those common passwords and see if they match. This is also why never reuse your passwords, because if there's one data breach, then they have all your accounts, because it's somewhere in a list of commonly used passwords that someone can just buy off the dark web. Not even the dark web, you could just get that anywhere. Okay, Any questions on that? Okay. For number 3, authentication. Authentication is proving that the person who's providing the data is the right person. This is particularly important in the asymmetric key, where we have, okay, I want to send a secret message to Billy, right? And to Billy only. Okay, I like obtain his public key from somewhere, and then I encrypt my message, and then I send it back to Billy. And then so that Billy can decrypt it using his private key. Okay, sounds great. But what if, like, I think that I'm talking to Billy, but there's actually someone else who's listening in to my conversation, and that person who's listening in actually, like, instead of me getting Billy's public key, I actually get the attacker's public key instead. And if I encrypt my message using the attacker's public key, then Billy can't read it anymore, and instead the attacker knows exactly what my message was. So that's a problem. So in such case, we need to make sure that that public key that I get from the internet or just talking to this person is really their public key. So that's what a signature is for. So a signature is just like someone that I like really trust. I don't know, like I really trust the OCF site manager, right? I really trust this person, and then they're saying like, okay, they sign off that this public key is definitely Billy's public key. I approve, right? So somebody else, like a third party, creates a signature, and if I trust that third party, and it has their signature on the key, then I can trust it. So the attacker, if they wanted to do that same attack, they would also have to forge a signature from that trusted entity. So it's an additional layer that they would have to go through. Yeah, so someone, where's the signature? Okay, but the problem is, how can I trust that third party? How do I know that, like, right? Like, if the attacker can go both forge the signature and man in the middle me, then I can't trust anything, right? So, what if, okay, then in order to solve that problem, if I can't trust like the OCF site manager or whatever, then I'll just have like the UC Berkeley, like, I don't know, the manager of MLK just like also provide a certificate on OCF's site manager. Okay, but what if I can't trust Berkeley? And then like it just keeps going, right? Like I don't know who down the line I can really trust. I mean, given enough people, you would think it's okay. But this is just a fundamental issue of trust that we can't really solve unless there's some root of authority that, like, it's one thing we can trust and all trust. Like, if we trust the person on top, then we can trust everyone else that comes below. So we have root certificates, which your root, like the trusted root authorities are actually built into your operating system, right? That's how important this is. So like I said, it's just like a big tree, like it's just certificates all the way down, right? Different people that you trust. But it's not foolproof because root authorities have been hacked before. Yeah, and that is a very bad, but I think they've worked on this. It's been a couple of years since. This was in 2011. So I don't think we had a big root certificate authority hack in a bit. Hopefully we're okay. It's really funny. I think Cloudflare is a root authority. Don't quote me on that, but one of these companies that are the root authorities, they have like a really elaborate ceremony when they like renew their certificate every year. They like invite all their people. It's like their certificate, like the machine with the thing on it is like, you know, in this like big vault, and then like everyone has to like retina scan and like fingerprint and to like get into the vault, and they just have like this like big little ceremonial thing, because it's a very important job that the root authorities have, and yeah, but that's where all trust comes from a couple of root authorities. Any questions on certificates and authentication? All right. Number 4, we have availability. So availability is like the DDoS attack I mentioned earlier. Like if you just like spam someone really hard, and I can make them go down. Like great, wouldn't it be great if Google went down, then like you would have to use like Bing or something to like do your web searches, right? So so some people might be incentivized to do such an attack, or maybe just for fun, like spam a game server and shut its servers down because you spent $100 and you didn't get the gotcha pull that you wanted. Yeah. So in order to fight against those kind of attacks, really the answer is you just have more computers than your attacker does. If you have more servers that can handle all the requests that are coming in, then, well, problem solved. Another way to like more strategically do this is like if you have all these computers, you can load balance so that if like let's say I'm serving like the entire world, right? So I'm serving Asia and Europe and America, so I have multiple servers and I distribute the load across of them. You might also experience like in games, right? What happens? Oh, it's like everyone's logging into like the like Japan servers, and then like people have to like connect to some server that's far away in order to play the game, which sucks. So there's that idea. Redundancy. Redundancy is just, okay, one server goes down, but if I have another one, everything's okay. And backups. When things do go down, we want to make sure that we can restore it back to its original state, because if you were logged in and then your game shut down and then you log back in and all your progress leveling up to 150 like all disappeared, you'll be very sad. So and then there's like tools to do this, like load balancing, redundancies. You can think there's stuff like Kubernetes. Did we have Kubernetes lecture already? Okay, that's in the future, but that's like that kind of like management across your devices. Yeah, there's tools for this. This is like if you want to become like a DevOps or like infrastructure platforms engineer. Okay, so I went through questions in between, but like, that's our 4 principles as a security engineer. And then I actually work as a SysAdmin for a research lab that has like a fair amount of members, and then we have like a big server that all the AI people run their like training jobs and whatever on. And one important thing is that like a lot of people are using this machine, and I want to make sure that some like first year undergrad who just joined can't like go around and like accidentally delete all the files, right? That'll be bad. So we have this idea of permission and ownership. Within Unix specifically, nobody uses Windows as a server. We only care about Linux, Unix. Okay, so yeah, the scenario I just mentioned. So if you do ls-al on your file system, I think you guys have Macs, or you can SSH into one of our computers. You will see this on the side, and you might have wondered what it means. And also like these names. So the one on the left is the user that owns the file, and optionally there's the group that owns the file. So I could be like, let's say I am Trinity C on these machines, and I'm part of like the staff group. So then when I create a new file, it will be under the staff group, but the owning user is me. Okay, And then the letters on this side over here, they're just abbreviations for these permissions. The D just means whether or not it's a directory. The first three is whether the user can read, write, and execute. Again, user referring to this user that's listed. Group, in this case, notice how there's only a dash for the write. So the group can only read and execute. They can't write. They can't change this file. And then everyone else who is not a part of the group or is a user can only look at it. They can't run it. Yeah, question?
How are groups different?
You just it's just like you add users to a group, like create group. You can search up the commands in Linux. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Repeat.
Should we define multiple groups to like each group I have different like information?
Yeah.
And is that information be shown on this which group it is in?
Yeah, there's only the owner of the file can only ever be one group.
Right, so it's the group that the owner
belongs. Yeah, it's the owner group only. It's like you can, yeah. So if you have like some like complex system where it's like hierarchical or something, like you can like create your groups to do that. But yeah, these refer to the people that are listed here: the user owner and the group owner. Okay.
What do you mean by create a file, then you're the owner of the file?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You can modify your permissions. You might have had to run this command chmod before. Usually you might do like let's say I have like some bash script. I just created like a script, like coolscript.sh for bash. And then in order to run it, I need to make it executable. So I might do chmod plus x meaning executable. And then that will do it for me, the user. Yeah, so here's an example of doing that. So right now, this important document.txt is read and write for the user, read only for the group, and then anyone else cannot see it at all. Right, so this is what you would want for an important document, right? Only the owners can even view it. Yeah, so for other people who would log in and look into this folder would not even see it listed at all. Okay, and then important, now we can adjust the permission. So we do chown, which is change owner. We change the owner to admin. And then since we are admin, the user admin at staff, we can now view it. And you can see the permission has changed. Wait, where did it change? Important document. Wait, this looks the same. That's strange. Yeah, but you can change. No, it's this. It used to be root, but it now changed to admin. There we go. If you change the owner to like, well, in this case, like, it's like the root is like a. I'm not exactly sure, but it's like the root is like a special group. I think same with the admin. So you change the owner. Oh, this is changing both. It's changing both the user : the group. That's why both of them changed. Okay. Okay, and then chmod. It's called. Why is it called chmod? Change mode. Yeah, change mode. Yeah, so you might do something like this. Chmod, and then something. I think O is owner, and then plus is like give or like grant, and then R is for read. So it's like chmod, allow the owner to read the important document. And then now you can see this has changed from read. Okay. You can optionally, it's also, you can specify in binary too. So you might see like chmod like plus 777 or some number like that. The numbers just mean you're treating each of them as binary. So binary meaning like if it's like nothing, then it'll be 0. If it's like read only and then no write and execute, you can think of it as the binary numbers 1 0 0. So it would be in decimal, that would be 1 times 0 plus 2 times 0 plus 4 times 0, which is 4. So 4 means read only. Read and write, no execute would be 4 plus 2, which is 6. Read, write, execute is 4 plus 2 plus 1, which is 7. So that's why people's like never do 777 because that's bad security. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on those? Okay. That's pretty much most I had. We can just like talk a little bit if you want. But I recently read this book called Ghosts in the Wires, and it's a really, really good book from a really, really cool person who I'm very sad died recently. But he was like one of like the OG like hackers who like he did it just like for fun and he got like hunted down by the FBI. So it's like the original story. So that's a really good read if you have the patience for it. And obviously some of the concepts I went over, especially with like the security and the certificates, is all part of 161 if you're interested. It's a pretty chill class. And then you can also join, there's disclaimer, I'm not actually like actively involved in this club, but there is the Berkeley Club, which does like little challenges, capture the flag challenges. So it kind of tests your skills. Now I haven't explored it as much here, but you can, now we talked about security from the perspective of a security engineer, but you can also do a much more interesting exploits if you're thinking from the perspective of a hacker. Like I have a friend who we took this music class, and then the music class requires you to like download this like software, and it's like paid, right? So it's like, okay, just like pay like the $30 license for the semester. But he like dug into the binaries and he was able to change the bits so that the like the has a license thing, it just says, yeah, he has a license, and then he could use it for free. So if you want to like actually do those kind of things, Berkeley is a great little community to do that. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but other than that, I'll stick around for lab time.